There's a level of ignorance in the world right now, that has brought a frustration to myself when it comes to sharing any of this type of information. I really don't at this point, especially since I went through my age shift, because I was put through an experiment. And this experiment, it first started out to where my age was shifting temporarily, but then this became permanent, and I became younger to a certain extent. They're calling me a vampire. People that are my age, like you don't sleep, or when you do sleep, it's not for long enough periods, and they like something's wrong with you. Why don't you take the time to sit down? You don't act like people your age. You act like you're younger or something like that. And I'm like, I don't feel like people my age. And I met this particular woman because you guys know I'm single and I was trying to like date her, but I don't think she felt comfortable and I didn't really feel comfortable because she was close to my age, like maybe a year older than me. But I felt like a child around her, not because I couldn't have a conversation with her or anything like that. It wasn't that. It's just more of what's happening up here to myself as we switch shift, and I'm really embracing coming into the kingdom as a child, and I'm really embracing valuing these teachings of metaphysics and spirituality and not selling yourself short. And that's kind of like what happened to me in my life, and that's the message I want to put out to other young teachers or people that are interested in sharing this information: is don't sell yourself short. um, don't sell these teachings short, meaning that stuff is valuable, it's priceless. If you get into it and apply it and study it, there's nowhere you couldn't go and nothing that you can't do when you get into studying these teachings. But you got to remember that this is to be exchanged. These teachings were a form of a currency, and it wasn't until the advent of certain governments that this particular currency was taken off the market and replaced by a fiat or a paper currency, where you had men put and placed on these different coins and metals as an experiment to take away from the authors and the architects of this experiment, which essentially created this grid off units, is where I'm getting at. If you guys don't understand where I'm going, this was money and all of that was a way to measure units and to measure time and to get into what's called fractals of time. To visa fractals of time, you need certain amounts of units, small units, to do it. And this is where money really came from. For us to move in this grid and to shift this grid, we need money. And people don't understand it. So I got frustrated and get frustrated because they're like, you all about money, you taking, you're doing this, and you're asking for donations and not giving back. And I'm like, do you know how much some of these videos are worth in credit that's stimulating the internet right now? Like, I'm giving back tremendously when it comes to credit that's just available on the internet from my journeys and fact finding missions of studying the occult metaphysics, and it just gets frustrating. It really does. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to really find ways to keep your passion in this, because if you don't, you'll get negative and you'll begin to manifest that negativity. It's like electricity over and over again. You'll begin to manifest negative scenarios, and everything you touch seems like it'll become negative. That's what you got to watch out for. I went through that and I have a period of that. They call it so-called bad luck. It wasn't bad luck. It was what happens is that we're in an electromagnetic grid that responds to our feelings and emotions and the types of energy that we emit. And when we emit negative energy, this causes, just like they say, everything you touch turns to gold, or everything you touch can turn into a disaster. You ever been with someone and it rains on them only? This is the frequency. They don't have bad luck. This is their frequency thrown off from not being connected to the grid in a certain type of way. So you got to remember, if you're born at a certain time, and that's what happened to me, where I had to go through an age shift. At a certain period, if you're born at a certain time, there's a certain time where the lock on your age can be hacked, and you could be compromised and taken over through your crown chakra by higher beings, because there's time periods on this planet that in order for you to stay living in this body and on this planet, once we get to that time period, you have to live in your future self. You can no longer live in your present self or your past self of who you are to survive. And that's where we're at right now. That's what I had to do. So I went through an age shift, and after that, it became frustrating. Not that you're judging people, but you start seeing people that need health and healing. And it's like you have the remedy, but they have to open the door and listen to you. And there's so much negative information out there about vampires and occult wizards that people aren't really hype about us occultists anymore. Actually, they want us to stay away from them. So it's a lonely road. And the only thing I can do is tell a person is that's new to this, if you want to survive it, you have to have a connection, a relationship with yourself that you never probably seen in a million years. Like you have to know yourself like white on rice. You gotta stay vigilant.